Hey, it's Kyle Meredith, and this is another edition of Kyle Meredith With, an ongoing interview series presented by 91.9 WFPK, Independent Louisville, and Consequence of Sound. So this time around, I get to talk to Colin Meloy of the Decemberists. They just released their brand new record, I'll Be Your Girl. We get to talk about it being a lot more synth-heavy than we've ever known the Decemberists for, as well as a nice little credit in their liner notes that thanks special counsel Robert Muller. It's all in the interview. Colin Meloy of the Decemberists.
Hi.
Louisville. You're close.
Louisville. Sorry, I'm such a Pacific Northwesterner.
It's all right. It's good to talk to you again, Colin. We're excited to have you guys back down here.
Oh, we're excited to go. Yeah, love your city.
That's a good, safe way to play that right there. It's you can say Louisville. I mean, we were named after a very bad king of King Louis, but
right.
It's fine.
Well, I know how people say Oregon, and I just don't want to be one of those people. So I'll just say that lovely city.
Well, congratulations. I know today's the release day for I'll Be Your Girl. This is already one of my favorite Decemberist records. It's interesting, too, because on paper, you look back at the history of rock and the ones who did it right and the ones who did it wrong. And so this was like perfect timing for this record. It's almost like in your catalog exactly when this record should have arrived. I don't know if you get that sense or not.
Oh, I don't know. I guess so. If that's the case, it's purely accidental. I honestly think of this band and myself as a songwriter as mostly just sort of bumbling through my career and making good decisions occasionally and bad decisions, but occasionally it's just sort of a roll of the dice. But I appreciate that you feel that way.
Yeah, because you've done it before. I mean, the Hazards of Love's an easy touchstone. That every moment when the Decemberists sort of started sounding like themselves, you mixed it up. You threw a really great curveball in there. Were there talks going into this record when you said this one's got to be completely a different thing, a different beast?
No. I think if we had done that, there's the potential of it being contrived would be too much of a risk. So at the end of the day, you want to be making true music. You want to be writing something true. If you're doing it just for the sake of making something different, I think invariably that won't be true. So my take on it is that I suspected that I had fallen into habits as an artist, not necessarily bad habits, but there was, it seemed like we were kind of getting to a point where putting things into a program and while they were comfortable and sort of successful even occasionally, I felt as an artist, wanted to try to expand the boundaries a little bit. So mostly set out just to create an environment, using a different studio, using a different producer that would give us license to make different choices, make different decisions. And that's really how this record formed.
It's always sort of fun talking to you about, some older bands, especially in the 80s, and how they relate to, influence and stuff like that. And the Smiths is an easy touchstone in there as well, and a few others. But like, thanks to the synth this time around, it feels like you get to wear some different costumes. Were there any specifically?
Yeah. Well, I got to pretend to be in New Order occasionally. Got to pretend to be in The Cure also a few moments, and also in T-Rex. It's fun. I mean, if you're in a band, half of the fun is, the reason that people are even in bands is because they want to be, creating the music that they want to be the bands that they loved, but you can't be the band, you can only be your own band. So, yeah, I mean, over the years, we've definitely put on different outfits and have really reveled in that.
Now, with this, synth sound, with your New Order and Depeche Mode and The Cure seeping in there, do you apply that to any of the older songs when you go out on tour? Is that opportunity there?
Well, no, because I don't. I honestly, I feel like this record with its arrangements fits in pretty well with the rest of our records, and I have no interest in rebranding us as some sort of synthesizer heavy band. This is just part of our body of work. So there's a few places where we're slipping in, kind of cheekily slipping in a few synth things. But I think for the most part we're messing with arrangements, but also keeping it fairly organic.
I talked to David Byrne just a few days ago about his new record, and he's out doing this thing called Reasons to Be Cheerful. And then I looked at your record and I saw a song that said Everything is Awful and Life's Great Balance.
Both can be true. They are not mutually exclusive.
That song came right after the election, right? I read?
It did. It was just kind of bubbled over, and I don't know that I intended it to be for public consumption like so many songs. I think I just kind of wrote it and played it for my wife to make her laugh, and she said, "That's good, you should do that." And so that's how it kind of came to be a band song.
Now, are you still feeling sort of that way? Because I know we've all gone through our own ups and downs, and I see that later on in the at least in the credits that I got, you do thank Special Counsel Robert Muller.
Yeah, we do. No, I think everything is just as awful as it was then. I mean, it's not a sentiment of me like chucking out, everything I believe in and just saying I'm done. Everything is terrible. I would hope, and I think that people have responded to it this way, is that it's sort of more of a rallying cry or sort of a blanket we can all share. One of the nice things about after the election, I think immediately after the election, there was a real onset, for me at least, of depression and despair that was not funny, that was real. Thinking about my kids, thinking about my family, thinking about the country. But then finding that there were so many other people that felt the same way. There was almost this community, and we saw that in the Women's March, and we're continually seeing that, the March for Our Lives. People really coming together under this feeling of everything is awful. Why did it take us so long to discover this? Let's do something about it. So I think that song has more to do with that than just kind of a throwing in the towel.
Yeah, it's an easy reference to go back to say what a terrible world, what a beautiful world. Funny how
kind of fall on the former.
Yeah, I also want to ask the song that closes it out, which is the title track, "I'll Be Your Girl," is a beautiful song, just such a beautiful song. But I wondered, is that just a character study, or are you also saying something about gender with that? Because it's kind of an interesting in that context.
Yeah, it's not a character study. I don't, if it was sung by a girl, it wouldn't be. It's not interesting. The reason is I think that it works is because it's sung by a man. To me that sentiment, the "I'll be your girl," I'm your man, I'll be your man, I'm the guy for you. There's something really gendered and masculine about rock and roll, and I thought it would be interesting, and particularly in light of these days when there are so many conversations happening about gender roles, gender fluidity, to kind of flip that a little bit and see what "I'll Be Your Girl" means being sung by a man.
It's cool, and a great way to close out such a good record. And a sort of a title track for the tour, "Your Girl versus Your Ghost." It's a cool play there. So
thank you.
Yeah, well, we look forward to seeing you here in Louisville. And again, all the praise for this record. You knocked it out of the park, man.
Oh, thank you so much.
Hey, thanks for listening, and thanks to Colin Meloy of the Decemberists for calling in. Their brand new record is called "I'll Be Your Girl." And don't forget to subscribe to Consequence of Sound's YouTube page for interviews from all of your favorite artists, and head to WFPK.org for some fine radio station action. I'm Kyle Meredith. I'll see you next time.